Let's go. But inconspicuously. Through the window.
The Wrestling Life.
Hey everybody, it's The Wrestling Life. It's episode 410. It is Memorial Day weekend of 2025. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
Liam, we have so much to talk about this week.
And as always, so many things we cannot talk about on the first and only wrestling podcast.
Stop me if you've heard this before. There's a million wrestling shows this weekend.
Yeah.
WWE has a Saturday night's main event on Saturday. They have NXT Battleground on Sunday. And AEW has their 6th anniversary Double or Nothing pay-per-view on Sunday. What's going to be catching your eye this weekend?
Yeah, I think Saturday night's main event and the double or nothing show will definitely be reviewed. Will be watched probably. I don't know if I'll get to watch Saturday night's main event live, but I will probably see it at the latest by Sunday morning. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how much they try. They've loaded that show up with some star power, so we'll get into all that in a second. That one will definitely be. And then I don't watch TNA, and putting Joe Hendry on the NXT show hasn't really increased my interest in watching NXT either. So uh we'll see. As always, if I hear a certain match or something raved about, I will check it out, but otherwise it'll be on a, yeah, as time permits basis for me with when it comes to NXT.
Looking at the lineup, I don't see an obvious winner on that card. We'll start with Saturday night's main event. That is Saturday night. Imagine that. In primetime on NBC. 4 matches announced as we were recording this. I suspect they may add a 5th. Actually, they might just do a dark match. Anyway. I was looking at the wiki for the last show, the first or second of this NBC era, I guess. With and they did 4 matches in a 2-hour show, and the way they pace their shows, I guess that's about right. But
Hmm.
I was looking at this line. I was, this looks a little light. I don't know how we're getting 2 hours out of this, but Jey Uso defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Logan Paul. Any thoughts?
Um, I Man, I don't know. Double count out. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to root for here. I don't particularly enjoy Logan Paul's work, but I don't know if I mentioned it. Don't really enjoy Jey Uso as a singles wrestler. So I don't know. They already started to sort of tease something with Gunther and Logan Paul on Raw this week, so it seems like maybe they're setting up something else for Logan. And since Gunther just lost the world title, you wouldn't necessarily think they'd be putting him right back into a title program. So I assume Jay wins here by hook or crook somehow.
CM Punk and Sami Zayn are teaming up against the group of Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, but they refuse to name. Oh, daggone it. Hey,
Seth
CM
Rollins,
Punk and
Braun Breaker, and their very wide father, Paul Heyman. They're all they're just that's their name.
their very wide father, you say?
I do indeed.
All right. CM Punk and Sami Zayn's a really fun babyface tag team, isn't it?
Yeah, like I think we may have touched on this in one of the last couple shows we did, but it's like, because one thing, it's like in real life, it just doesn't seem like these guys would ever be friends. So, but they do represent the babyface side. Their characters, I think, are fun to play off of each other uh for a variety of reasons. So yeah, I like them together, and it gives you a little bit more intrigue than it just being, any two random baby faces teaming up to fight the new top heels. So it works.
John Cena versus R-Truth. WWE title not on the line. What are we doing, man?
We didn't talk about that last week because we had a million other things to talk about, I'm sure. But the angle to set this up was like, I think it has to be the worst angle John Cena's ever been a part of. Truth was in TNA for a while, so I assume he's done something worse, but it's got to be like they kept doing this bit where R-Truth kept interrupting him during his press conference, and then Cena just like calmly stood up, picked him up on his shoulders. R-Truth did not struggle slightly. Neither of them said anything or made any sort of exertion as if it was a struggle. And then Cena lightly put him through a table, the press conference table, and slowly walked away. And there was no noise and no attention. They didn't even have like extras dressed as paramedics or something to rush in to help Truth right away. It's just like a weird, it was like it became a silent movie parody of pro wrestling for 45 seconds while Cena put him through this table. It was like one of the worst things I've ever seen.
And now these two, one almost 50-year-old, one 50-plus-year-old man are going to have a comedy wrestling match, I assume, on NBC in prime time.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I feel like the idea, because Truth has been doing this bit for like 6 years. I don't know who it's for because I've never thought it was particularly funny that he watched John Cena growing up, which is a gag because you see he's actually older than John Cena and was actually wrestling long before John Cena was. And so, like, the idea of Cena beating the crap out of R-Truth to solidify his heeldom, I guess, is not the worst idea I've ever heard on paper. But the execution, not great, Bob. I don't know. I don't. It's a way to get John Cena on a show, and I don't know if Cena's picking his opponents on this run or whatever, and he's just running through the 2011 pay-per-view schedule with Randy Orton, R-Truth, and I assume eventually CM Punk. But yeah, it's, I don't know whose decision this was, but they did not, they're not in any way trying to build up that Truth has any credibility suddenly for to, or that he's gonna beat Cena. So it's just I guess a way to get John Cena on the show. So that's what we're doing.
Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre in a steel cage match. Drew McIntyre has righteously pointed out in his promos that all he does is keep beating this guy, and he keeps getting rematched with him.
It's kind of Drew's lot in life in general, right? I mean, how many times did he wrestle Punk? Um, yeah, I do enjoy when the wrestlers start putting out that the it's not what they're saying, but the implication when you really examine it is that the booking is lazy. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, he is correct. It is lazy. These guys had, I thought, maybe a little bit better than I expected match at Mania. They worked really hard, and they were part of a forgettable four-way match at the last pay-per-view, and now they're gonna have another one. I don't know. Cage matches at WWE do nothing for me in general, and then you have kind of two bigger. They're not that they're not athletic, but they're not. I don't think either one of these guys is doing a dive off the cage. So, and I don't think we're running the razor on primetime NBC. So I'm not sure what a cage match between these guys could what could be good coming out of that. But hey, maybe if Drew the character and perhaps Drew the person gets their wish, this will be the last time we have to see these guys wrestle for a while.
Well, that's the lineup. Other WWE news this week. Zoe Stark's knee exploded
Ooh,
on
yeah.
Monday Night Raw doing a springboard drop kick that Kyrie Sane appeared to be out of position for, but also the spot is just a bad idea.
Yeah.
So sucks to be Zoe Stark, except for the fact, as you pointed out to me, she probably would have been fired in about 6 months anyway. So it was kind of crazy that she survived this last round of cuts. And now she has a knee injury. It's going to take her out probably for 9 to 12 months. So maybe she bought herself another year of six-figure income. So that's good for her.
Yeah, it sucked to see. It was Kyrie's first match back in a long time since she's been out injured, and they put her in this three-way. And I think they were trying to do a spot which someone pointed out. Zoe like concussed someone on previously, where like they're supposed to be coming, like they bounce off the ropes and run back. And as they're running back across the ring, she comes off from the other side with this drop kick. And but then, yeah, as you pointed out, Kyrie just appeared to not be in position. You could literally hear her shouting, Kyrie, Kyrie, while she's in the air, trying to figure out what what they're gonna do. So yeah, it was a real shame though. And yeah, it was pretty brutal. So you were the way it was it the way Cole and McAfee were talking about it, I almost thought it was an angle at first because they were drawing a lot of attention to it, but then very quickly the camera stopped showing her and they cut to commercial. So then it became pretty clear that it wasn't. So yeah, sucks for Zoe, but hopefully being off TV is somehow sometimes not the worst thing for you when you work for one of these big major promotions. So good best of luck to her.
Uh, WWE announced earlier this year that WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans next April. They announced the
Dwayne
dates. They announced
announced.
that. Yep. And now it's not going to be in New Orleans next year. And it looks like it's going to be in Las Vegas again. I think TKO wants to do WrestleMania in Las Vegas all the time. Is my takeaway from this. And as long as they can get money to do so, they will. But hey, if you bought your travel and hotel for WrestleMania next year already, you're out of luck.
Yeah, weird. I mean, just weird because I can't think of a time where this has happened where they actually announced it. Obviously, there's been times when a certain city was rumored and then something fell through, or a different city came in with an 11th hour offer before the official announcement. But and obviously we've seen them shift venues famously, like WrestleMania 7, where they tried to book it in a big, stadium and couldn't fill it. I'm sorry, there were terroristic threats against Sergeant Slaughter's wife, so they had to move it to a very small arena instead. But yeah, I'm my thing is like, is this enough, or is the city of Las Vegas? When is the permanent sphere residency of the WWE going to be in Las Vegas? That feels like the end game here is that there should just be a nightly show. And hey, it wouldn't be the worst idea as far as trying to keep getting people some reps, since you don't do house shows anymore. Do a Vegas residency at the Sphere for 3 months or 6 months and just cycle people in and out as needed.
I mean, problem with that, you can't sell that many tickets in the same city even Vegas. You can't do it. There's no demand.
Right.
They moved this Tuesday's NXT out of Tampa after talking for 3 months on television about how they were doing 4 straight nights in Tampa. They canceled this Tuesday's NXT on 6 days' notice and moved it back to Orlando because they couldn't sell more than 1,200 or 2,000 tickets for a TV taping. Like, they can't do 4 nights in a city, let alone a residency in a city. It's what I'm not that you're actually arguing for residency in Las Vegas. I'm just pointing out. Anywho, Battleground this weekend. We'll talk about that real very quickly. Obafemi defending the NXT Championship against Miles Bourne, whose character is Deaf Randy Orton clone. That's 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 canon. That's canon. He a little bit of hot goss. I believe is dating the NXT Women's Champion Stephanie Vaquer, who is defending her championship against Jordan Grace on this show. Jordan Grace, not a fan. Just not a fan. I'm not a fan of the person or the character. Joe Hendry versus Trick Williams for the TNA World Championship, as you pointed out. Um, yeah, Tony D'Angelo against his former Mafia underling, Channing Stacks Lorenzo. Solruka defending the NXT Women's North American Championship against Kalani Jordan, and then a six-man tag with Hank and Tank and Josh Briggs facing Brooks Jensen, Nico Vance, and Sean Spears. This is not a barn burner of a lineup for me.
Yeah, doesn't sound like
AEW Double
doesn't
or
sound like
Nothing this weekend.
sorry, doesn't sound like a lot of bangers on that show.
Yeah, it's a weak card. They got 6,000 tickets out for it, so good for them. AEW Double or Nothing is this weekend, and we have the main event of the show will be Hangman Adam Page against Will Ospreay in the finals of the Men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Winner gets a shot at the world title at All In. Hanger or Ospreay, pal?
I mean, my heart is always with Hangman. What? Um,
Yes.
I think I think I think it's a they laid out good reasoning why either guy should win in their promo on Wednesday. I give them both credit there. Listen, it feels like maybe it should have been Osprey a year ago. Now I feel like you could go either way with it. I think at one point it certainly felt like they were leading up to Hangman and Swerve as a tag team against the Young Bucks, which could be where they still go. So if you're like logically, I think it's Osprey because Osprey and Moxley is a match they have not done before. And if you're trying to get, if you're trying to make a big match on your biggest show of the year, Moxley and Osprey are two of your biggest stars who you've never matched up before. So that makes more sense to me. The saga of Hangman finding his smile and getting back to the world title, I think is good and compelling, and probably means more to me as like a person that's watched this show for all these years. But they really, as soon as he won the belt, they stopped pushing Hangman as a top guy. So that's like 4 years now that they'll flirt with him getting back to the main event, and then he never quite does. So I think Will is probably winning, even though I think you could argue it should be Hangman.
We have the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament final with Mercedes Moné against Jamie Hayter. Does Hayter have a chance?
I don't think so. I just, again, kind of for the same thing I just said, Tony and Mercedes feels like a match you have to do because those are your two biggest female stars, and you haven't done that, and they've kept them apart for a reason. So, yeah, I think the biggest show of the year makes sense as a time to do it. So I suspect this will. I suspect that Mercedes is going to win, and who knows where they go from there. But the belt collector thing, maybe she wins the ROH title from Athena before All In, and then you set up, where it's really for all the belts. She did lose the Strong Championship in a three-way, where she didn't get pinned a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, but so she's not technically undefeated, I guess, but she isn't. She hasn't been pinned or submitted, so I feel like you have to have her going into the Tony match having still not being pinned or submitted. So, but I thought they did a good job for like weeks and weeks now. She's been just avoiding getting hit with the clothesline, the Haterade, and then this week Hater finally hit it, and she took like an incredible bump for it. And I'm like, okay, because now you've told the fans that if she hits this, the match is over. So I feel like they did what they could to convince you maybe there's a chance Jamie could win, but no, I don't think there's a chance Jamie could win.
Can I point out as like one of the uh, top 100 Mercedes Moné fans on the planet
Hmm.
that when she sells like that, it's because she's going to win. This is someone who could not be more in Mercedes Moné's corner, and yet I must point out she sells differently when she's going to win than when she's going to lose. So I concur. I don't think there's any chance for Jamie Hayter to win. Anarchy in a contained environment. an AEW signature match, Anarchy, but it's contained to the arena.
Mhm.
How do these teams, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, the Young Bucks, and Marina Shafir against Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, Katsuyori Shibata, and Willow Nightingale. 6-on-6. How do they settle on 6-on-6? Why has Gabe Kidd been involved in all of the build to this?
I think it's because Eddie Kingston's coming back, and Eddie got hurt in a match against Gabe. So I don't know if they'll officially add Gabe to the team, and it'll be 7-on-6, and then Eddie will run out, or if Gabe will just at some point get involved to attack Kenny or whatever again, and then Eddie just runs out as a surprise there. But I think it's to set up Eddie Kingston's return. I don't know why you necessarily need Gabe Kidd for that. I mean, obviously, like it's picking up on a New Japan storyline, but theoretically, uh, they could do that on their own time, and you could save Eddie's return. I mean, Eddie returning to side against his former best friend would be pretty noteworthy anyway. But yeah, I don't know, but I get the sense that this is pretty. I'm pretty sure this is Eddie Kingston's return show is coming up at Double or Nothing. So we'll see. I mean, it could be Hook, I guess, could be the other person that shows up to counteract Gabe, but that seems lame. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be Eddie.
Okada defending the Continental Championship against Mike Bailey, a match that I can't see in my head. But I hope everyone has fun.
Is it weird that Okada
If you have
just
any
suddenly
thoughts on this,
just stopped dyeing his hair this week?
I, I guess I don't know. It's
He's had platinum blonde hair for like his entire time he's been in America. All of a sudden, he had like dark brown hair on Dynamite this week. I'm like, what's going on, buddy?
he's checked out in many ways.
This is Bill Eadie in 1990 and like fall of 92 working superstars.
I guess so. Yeah, I just, as mentioned, I can't see this match in my head. Mark Briscoe versus Ricochet in a stretcher match. That feels like a collision main event to me.
Mm-hmm.
FTR against Danny Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. The collision feud. Um, hey, this will probably be pretty cool and good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about this with Pat last week. The babyface announcer standing up out of the booth to fight, to fight for what's right, kind of always works, and people are really into Nigel, and it gives Garcia something to do for the first time since since he won the TNT championship, but definitely since he lost it. So yeah, it gives them something to do, and I assume FTR will win and solidify their new heeldom.
Tony Storm defending the women's title against Mina Shirakawa. Um, feels like a 9:20 p.m. on Dynamite match to me, but hey, Mina Shirakawa officially signed with the company this week, so all right. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's been funny how they have purposefully not mentioned Mariah May as part of this angle. I understand not wanting to give a ton of oxygen to that if you think she's imminently going to walk onto WWE's television, but just
Yeah.
funny because the whole thing was she was Mariah's special friend, and it was a love triangle between the three of them, and now like the main character of that whole storyline is gone. So it's like they're just talking about how they have a past, and I think they did one video package where they did show Mariah once or twice, but they just didn't focus on it. And again, that's fine. You don't want to make somebody who's leaving the main character of a storyline, but it just kind of makes it odd. So maybe it's better that they just kept this to like a 2 week build and a match, and then Mina can move on to something else.
Yep. Hurt Syndicate defending the tag titles against Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. Sure, why not?
Dustin gonna win so he can go do some local promo for All In with the belt on his shoulder.
That would be nice. I don't know how or why, especially unless MJF costs his new friends the match already. It seems quick for that, but I I don't. This match also makes no sense in my head, so I just can't see anything to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem very soon to pull the trigger on the MJF turn. I mean, they're tipping it immediately by he got Mark Sterling involved in his Hurt Business contract. So, obviously he's
Right.
screwing them over, but it does seem very, very soon. Like if I thought if you're gonna do it immediately, they would have done it Wednesday. I guess they could wait for the pay per view so he costs them the belts or whatever. But then he needs. I guess you could put him with FTR. I mean, they used to be in a group together, so you could put those guys all together, and then you do, I guess, FTR and MJF versus MVP and those guys. But yeah, I don't know. It seems a little quick, and the payoff doesn't seem like it would be worth it at this moment.
And then, spoiler alert, being announced on Collision this week for the pay-per-view Sunday. Kyle Fletcher, Koneski Takeshita, and Josh Alexander against Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly. And Megan Bain and Penelope Ford against Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. I assume those are pre-show matches, or at least one of them is.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, yeah.
A lot of we talked about this, right? A lot of female tag teams all of a sudden in this company for a company that doesn't have female tag belts. That's kind of weird.
I yeah, I assume they're adding women's tag belts sooner than later, but I don't know other than that. Just I've heard rumblings about it. Do you like
Well,
what?
yeah, I mean they've just paired, like it feels like everybody has a buddy now. Like we've paired them up. I mean factions and that sort of thing have existed since AEW has existed, obviously, as far as just pairing up random people or whatever. But it feels like it's like there's a lot of duos running around on on TV this week. So it feels like, yeah, that makes sense as a thing to do. And they've been teasing for a while now of Statlander and Willow becoming friends again. And depending on how long they stretch it out, like we talked about, I think Shayna Baszler is joining the Death Riders in 90 days minus however long it's now been since she's been fired. So there's going to be just plenty of duos all of a sudden running around in this company. So yeah, might as well give them something to wrestle for if there's gonna be tag matches on these shows every week anyway.
Absolutely. Let's see. I think that's about it. Um, I hope everyone has a good holiday weekend. I haven't had a holiday weekend in a long time, and I won't have a holiday this weekend either. I hope you have a good holiday weekend, pal. And is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we get out of here to go watch more wrestling?
No, I think that about rounds it up.
All right. Until next time, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
We'll be back soon with more stories from the wrestling life.
Adios.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, here are this week's bonus features.
Who else can we kill or get fired right now?
Exceedingly high batting average.
You know who I think's a swell guy? Paul Levesque.
See, I feel like if I say anything, there might be legally actionable things.
Well, because there's a paper trail.
Fall. because all those times I called him a bald fraud and talked about his weak heart and stuff. I feel like something bad's happened.
The Orioles firing their manager and then giving up 10 runs each of the next two games, losing four in a row, and four of their next five is pretty on brand for this year's brand of baseball, is it not?
It is. I was in sort of a darkly humorous way, not happy to see Brandon Hyde fired. I was almost giggling at the like the presser about it, or the press release I should say, where Michael Ice is like, well, the buck stops with me. So we're firing Brandon Hyde, the GM, correctly pointing out that many of the issues are out of the manager's hands when half of your roster is injured and the other half is underperforming, and several of your impact players left and were not replaced adequately by the guy who signs players. Michael Elias
Hmm.
acknowledges this and says the buck stops with him, and then fired someone else, which is just,
Fires an underling.
yes, classic. That's America, baby.
He fired his 51-year-old professional little brother
Uh, yeah,
because of his failings. Yeah.
yes, yeah. I mean, at least Hyde got like a couple years of success. Because a lot of
Yes,
times it
that's
feels
nice.
like on these rebuild teams, it's like the guy that shepherds it you through the rebuild doesn't even get to see like a winning season.
Right.
So,
Right.
uh,
Look, I understand it's professional sports. It's you can't fire all the players at once. The GM isn't going to fire himself. The owner's not going to fire himself. There has to be a scapegoat. On the other hand, boy, does that suck for Brandon Hyde. I guess, except for the fact where he doesn't have to watch Orioles baseball all summer now.
that's a plus, I'm sure. I could move back to. I have no idea where Brandon Hyde is from.
He's from Northern California, but I think he lives in Florida. So
Okay.
my one of my favorite Brandon Hyde press conferences of all time was when they went to San Francisco to play the Giants, and he was very subtly trying to explain to the five or six reporters that cover the team on a daily basis how happy he was to be back on the West Coast, and he it's like it's really good to be back here in Northern California, in front of the Pacific Ocean. Just it was funny because it was a loaded sentence implying that the Pacific Ocean is better than the Atlantic Ocean. It's just like it was just kind of a funny dumb guy bit, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That he
Oh,
was
for
that he
sure.
was doing. It was great. I'm gonna try to dig that up.
Please do. Yeah, mine is probably when uh aging surprise fun story of the Orioles 2024 season, Albert Suarez Baru made his first start and surprised people by not being terrible last season. And all Hyde could say in the post game was like, well, he's a grown man. He's been around, and he's a grown man. That's the only thing he could think to say. It's like, I'm just as surprised as
That's
you are that this
wonderful.
journeyman who hadn't pitched in the majors in America since like 2018 through five innings and got us to a win. I'm as shocked as anyone, but I don't really know what to say because I don't know him very well.
He he's an old man. Yeah, he's a grown man. He's a grown ass man. Um Norm from Cheers died. That's sad.
Yeah.
Although I guess it's a sign that a 76-year-old guy who weighed 300 pounds most of his life made it to 76. That's got to be beating the odds for a 300-pound guy, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, seem to enjoy life. And yeah,
yeah.
good for him. And so he came back on Frasier a few times, right? To play Norm again, or at least once.
At least once.
Okay,
They would usually do one episode a season with a Cheers guest. And I guess he was on one where they went back to Boston. Yeah. They like Ted Danson got a standalone episode of Frasier. Woody Harrelson got a standalone episode of Frasier. Shelley Long got a standalone episode, at least one of Frasier. But I think they did one with kind of the Cliffs and Norms and Carlas of the world where they went back to Boston. So yeah.
nice. That's a good deal. That's fun. I also like the fact that he did one with Ted Danson during what was allegedly a 30-year feud. This is as we discussed last year
Right.
about how
Right.
that timeline doesn't make sense, even though it made like a bunch of podcast headlines about how they didn't speak for since Cheers ended or something. It's like, wait a minute, he was in an episode of Frasier.
Right. Like season 2 or 3 of Frasier.
Right.
Like not like 3 years after Cheers ended, they were working together. And as
Right.
RJ City pointed out, I guess Frasier, Kelsey Grammer did an episode of Becker, uh, this CBS sitcom where Ted Danson played a doctor with a bad attitude. I think that was kind of really just the whole pitch. Very much like House on Fox was he's a doctor but he has a bad attitude,
Mhm.
but played for drama. On CBS it was he's a doctor but he has a bad attitude but played for comedy.
There you go. it's, it's a tried and true formula.
I try to keep on keeping on.